global Muchidão, realizing just transitions. Welcome to the German Climate Pavilion at COP30 in Billy.
Hello and warm welcome to the German Pavilion. Thank you for being here with us. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you, both in person and online. A warm welcome to our colleagues online that couldn't make it here to this COP30 side event that has a very special space in my heart as well. My name is Kawtar Zerouali, and I am honored to be your moderator today for this timely and important discussion. This conversation, organized in cooperation with UN Women, DPPA, and United Nations Women, Peace and Humanitarian Fund, could not come at a better moment as we celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Women, Peace and Security Agenda. We are reminded of how critical inclusive approaches are for addressing today's interconnected challenges of climate, peace, and security. I am here representing the Peacebuilding Fund and the Peacebuilding Support Office that has been playing a catalytic role in advancing gender-responsive and climate-responsive peacebuilding. By supporting innovative projects and partnerships, we support tackling root causes of conflict while promoting inclusion and resilience. The Peacebuilding Fund's unique role in this space is that it can take risks and demonstrate proof of concept in contexts where other actors are not yet willing or not ready to engage. As we mark this milestone, we gather here in Belém to explore how increased investment in inclusive approaches can strengthen transformative and local solutions for climate action, peace, and security. Today's objective is to showcase good practices, challenges, and opportunities for inclusive solutions and meaningful participation, as well as highlight women's leadership that evidence effective implementation to address climate-related security risks. Without further ado, let me introduce Ms. Anne, Head of Division for Bilateral Climate Partnership at the Federal Foreign Office, Germany. Ms. Anne, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and also a warm welcome from my side to all of you. As it was already said before, we dedicate this event to two very significant anniversaries. The 25th anniversary of the UN Secretariat Council Resolution 1325 on Women, Peace and Security, as well as the 10th anniversary of Resolution 2250 on Youth, Peace and Security. We really believe that these two milestones highlight the progress we have made in promoting inclusive approaches to peace and security. Yet, the climate crisis which we see unfolding is increasingly threatening security, freedom, and prosperity, and this really serves as a reminder that we have to accelerate further our efforts here. In this context, I'm very delighted to be here with so many inspiring women, youth, and indigenous leaders. It's really great to see an all-female panel. I think we don't have it that often here, even though we really try to also work on gender balance, but it's really great that you managed to get to such a great panel here. And your voices and perspectives are really essential in addressing the complex and interconnected climate and security risk, which I guess we will hear more about in the next hour. I'm really grateful that we have this platform to learn from your insights and recommendations. We are convinced that locally led and inclusive processes generate solutions that reflect lived realities and foster long-term cooperation. We know that broad inclusion of women and youth in all levels enhances credibility and effectiveness of our programs. And this is why we actively promote women and youth integration in our projects on climate, peace and security. For instance, in Iraq, our project on improving peace and stability through climate change adaptation and conflict prevention, in short, ISCAP, has demonstrated the transformative potential of engaging young people in addressing climate challenges. The Youth Center in Basra has become a hub for capacity building and dialogue on climate and security. The initiative integrates climate change awareness into education and empowers youth to address local governance issues. This way, it strengthened accountability and resilience in the community. And one thing I also learned at another event I participated is how important it is that we integrate climate change issues and climate and security issues really in the tissues of our society. And I think this is something we are really doing with those projects as well. To support women-led civil society at COP28, Germany and the Women's Peace and Humanitarian Fund launched the Women and Climate Security Initiative. Since then, the Federal Foreign Office has contributed €4 million to support by now 22 local women's organizations in addressing climate-related conflicts and injustices in Colombia, Bangladesh, Nigeria, and the Pacific. And let me just give you an example here how this can look in practice. For example, in the Nariño region in Colombia, disputes over water and natural resources are common and traditionally a male-dominated area. However, supported by the Women and Climate Security Initiatives, the organization CICES actively promotes the participation of indigenous women in decision-making around resource allocation. And therefore, the newly established local climate committees are composed of at least 50% women, which I think is really a great success here. And it's thanks to those successes that I'm delighted that I can announce today that Germany will continue to support the critical work of the WPHF. And as a part of this critical support, we will allocate an additional €1.3 million to expand the Women's and Climate Security Initiative to Haiti, where gang violence, food insecurity, weak governance, as well as water and firewood shortages particularly affect women and girls. So we really hope that with contribution we can address those issues. And with our additional funding, we will also launch the Learning Hub Climate Connect to facilitate climate and security peer learning and collaboration among women-led organizations worldwide. So it's our big hope that this hub will enable the exchange of best practices and innovative solutions and foster more effective action. As we gather here at COP30, let us together reaffirm that inclusive, locally led approaches are a proven pathway to resilience and peace. Together, we can really accelerate action, amplify voices, and deliver tangible results for communities most affected by climate change, and thereby together contribute to stability and security. Before handing back to our moderator, I want to express really our sincere gratitude to our co-hosts and partners, the WPHF, UN Women, PBSO, and UNCDF, whose expertise and tireless efforts have made this event possible. And I'm really much looking forward to the discussion of all of you and the further inputs at this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anne. Thank you for sharing this insightful perspective. And I wanted to just take a minute to highlight another great initiative, as Germany has been a championship of this agenda and one of the largest donor of the Peacebuilding Fund. Together with Germany, PBSO, and the United Nations Capital Development Fund, they have established a platform called Investing for Peace, a platform of 12 million euros. The idea is super bold, and we are super proud to be part of this, where capital, when deployed intentionally, can make local adapted solutions. Peace-positive investment is what Investing for Peace is after, is to transform pipelines to actionable results on the ground. So thank you, Germany, for that. For now, building on this perspective, let us know more, and let us move to our panel. The objective of this discussion is to hear from our distinguished panelists on drawing on their perspective experience, showcasing good practices and challenges and opportunities. So let me turn to our first panelist, Chiamaka. Chiamaka, please. She has been a migration researcher and a lawyer whose work focuses on climate change, displacement, and reintegration. She brings both academic expertise and lived experience from flood-prone Lagos to a global conversation on climate mobility. Chiamaka, you have done some research on youth advocacy and climate mobility. Can you please tell us and share with us your finding and your reflections and insights? Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Chiamaka, as you have already introduced. I'm a climate mobility fellow with the Global Center for Climate Mobility. And for some of us, we are perhaps unaware of the nexus between climate change and human mobility. And so I thought to start by defining what this means exactly. So climate mobility in this sense refers to the ways how climate impacts such as flooding, such as erosion, how it compels, the way it shapes people's movement, whether through temporary displacement, whether through rural to urban migration, whether through cross-border movements. And so this whole dynamics of how climate change impacts shapes the way people move. That's what climate mobility is about, and that's what I've been doing in the course of my work with the Global Center for Climate Mobility. And in the course of this fellowship, which has been going on for 1 year, we've been researching a bit into youth challenges, youth perspectives when it comes to climate mobility advocacy. And so we know through my work in Nigeria and through the research I've been undertaking in recent times that youth play a crucial role in the field of climate mobility. Youth are typically the first to migrate, and youth are typically the first to innovate when it comes to environmental stress. And therefore, it's important to harness the potential of youth in the field of climate mobility. However, despite all this potential that youth possess, there are significant challenges that impede the capacity of youth to give their best in shaping policies and governance, in facilitating inclusive approaches to climate mobility, as the case may be. And so in the course of this first session, I would like to share some of the challenges that I highlighted or that we found in the course of the research that we did. And so the first is that most times youth complain in the course of this research producers. And what this means is, especially in some parts of the world, age is akin to wisdom. And when you are not old enough or when you're regarded as young, then your knowledge in this regard is discountenanced. Your inputs are not taken as seriously. And this is a challenge that some youth have complained about. And so the paradigm becomes, if we want youth to harness their potential, then it's important for this recognition to be made early. And that's the first realization or the first outcome that came from this research. Next was the fact that youth complained of burnout, the systemic the toll it takes to continue to agitate without recognition. It takes a toll mentally, and that has been coming up more often, especially in COP. Mental health, emotional sustainability, the toll it takes to advocate relentlessly without action, without tangible yields in the lives of those most vulnerable. And so this emotional toll, burden on youth, the youth population in a way impairs the efficacy of the work being done specifically in the field of climate mobility. Next is funding, and it's something that has been coming up. A lot of groups, indigenous people, women, communities at the front line are talking about funding, and youth too are amplifying this. And basically, the youth are saying that there is not enough funding, that youth-led initiatives are not prioritized, that funding conditions are onerous, they are stringent. It takes a lot of conditions, which in a lot of ways impairs the work, youth advocacy being done in this regard. And that's something to realize. And next is capacity. With climate mobility and climate change, there is a need for interdisciplinary literacy. And if youth, the population that we are looking on to pass the baton on, to continue the fight for climate action, for climate justice, for climate equity, if they are not capacitated, then that represents a significant challenge, and that's something that also came up. And so these are the four major challenges that the youth population, specifically in the field of climate mobility advocacy, have harnessed. And then in the next round, I'll share the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing those challenges. Those points really reflect the commitment to empowering youth. as key actors in climate and peace building strategies, because unlocking their potential is essential. So thank you for that. Now, let me give the floor to Maryanne. Maryanne is from Papua New Guinea. She is an indigenous activist and the founder and director of Humanity and Nature Indigenous Women's Association, a powerful voice for women's rights and climate justice. She leads efforts to protect communities affected by conflict, displacement, and environmental harm. Welcome, Maryanne. It is a pleasure to have you with us today. Maryanne, can you please share with us the many challenges related to climate, peace, and security? What these challenges mean for your communities today, and what are the recommendations you have to address these challenges?
Thank you for being here, and I'm so overwhelmed by these questions. The moderators already introduced me. I am from Papua New Guinea, one of the most diverse countries in the world, and 100% of our population are indigenous. And Papua New Guinea is also a forest nation and an ocean nation. And we as women and young girls survive in our ecosystem, and we're still intact with our culture and the ways of life. So the oceans, the forests, and everything that sustains us. And climate change not only affects us, but I would gladly say that we have contributed in the RED Plus programs in combating climate change using nature-based solutions and using our indigenous knowledge system. We have been trained and taught through generations to combat climate change, and it's in our DNA. And so we've been, as for me, as a feminist, indigenous activist, I have led more than 10,000 plus indigenous women and young girls in preserving and conserving our biodiversity and ecosystem, because Papua New Guinea has some of the most unique floras and faunas that would never find elsewhere in the world, like the famous Regina Bed of Paradise and some of the most species orchids which are. That's the reason why I am at the front line of combating climate change. And as we see today for climate change, in most COPs that we've attended, people are trying to find solutions to combat climate change. And as an indigenous woman, from my perspective, I need to be included in decision-making dialogues in this kind of platforms where my knowledge is not only being used as a consultation, but it's inclusive in decision-making process, because it is not a stakeholders knowledge where I go to school to attain that degree to have that knowledge into climate adaptation policies. It is in my DNA as an indigenous woman that has been given to me through generation. And so I protect some of the most ecological, 7% of the world's ecological biodiverse places in the world, like oceans preservation, rainforest preservation. So in the READ program, even though some of the initiatives and projects like mangrove restoration or reforestation are underfunded because of indigenous women are not inclusive in places like this. And we find it very hard. Also in cultural settings, we don't have a place for our saying as well. We are always placed in a position where we cannot participate in decision-making processes. So it is very hard for us to reach out and to speak in climate dialogues or decision-making platforms like this. So as I have also been a peace builder. I am the only indigenous woman being trained by United Nations political and peace building affairs in conflict zones. So because of cultural conflicts, my country is not recorded in the UN records, like the wars in Ukraine or like the wars in South Sudan, where people record the data, the population that are displaced by international conflicts. For my case, because of the diverse culture and the ethnicity of my country, people have the, what should I say, we face cultural and tribal conflict from time to time through generations. So people are displaced because of cultural displacement, and those are the same ammunitions and weapons that are used in Ukraine and Yugoslavia. So being a Melanesian woman to go to conflict zones and negotiate peace, it's very hard for me, especially at the front line when there is lack of funding and support, and at the same time facing stigma and discrimination of being a Melanesian woman in a society where it is a male-dominated society. And one other thing that I would like to share, it's environmental pollutions. That is, even though we are so rich in diversity, the industrial companies are coming into my country are not following the international mechanisms to do mining, gas exploration, or logging. For that reason, the government wants to just get GST taxes. For that reason, they don't even set policies or regulations that those industrial companies has to comply to come to my country. So in the recent, I think in August, I participated at the Regional Forum on Business and Human Rights in Melbourne this year to bring to Australia that most of our Australian companies are actually doing mining and exploration in my country, which has impacted Indigenous livelihood, our ecosystem, our water, our land. Everything we do, we survive, we depend on the land. We are the people of the land and the sea. Sorry, excuse me. So those are some of the reasons I come to these platforms or the business and human rights forums to address Indigenous issues affecting my country. So I would appeal, and what I really want to say is that put Indigenous women in the center of climate negotiation processes and mechanisms in platforms like this, or other platforms like the United Nations Business and Human Rights, or the United Nations World Refugee Forum, where displaced women can be heard, can be seen, and can be part of the process of the implementing regulations and laws. Another thing is, like, most funding don't reach Indigenous societies in the world. Due to funding shortage, even though we have much to do, we are still limited, and we don't access most of what we do in our work of advocacy. For that reason, invest in women. I am so grateful about my partner, Women, Peace and Humanitarian Fund, which always been a backbone of my advocacy, especially in forced displacement. That's the reason why I am a member of the Action Network on Forced Displacement. It is an initiative that is funded by the Federal Ministry of Economics and Cooperation Development, BMZ, with partnership with German international organization ZIZ and Women, Peace and Humanitarian Fund, as well as UNHCR, the Office of the UN agency, refugee agency. So this platform gave a space for me to be here. If it wouldn't be the opportunity by Action Network, I wouldn't be in a COP like this. in places like this because Action Network gave me the opportunity, created space for me to participate in platforms like this so that my voice can be heard. So I appreciate my minister who was here for the opening and she left, and then the government of Germany, BMZ and ZIZ. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maryanne, for sharing with us these realities and recommendations. Your points remind us why integrated approach are crucial in the front and should be in the front and the center, because climate, peace, and security, they are interlinked and deeply interconnected. This is why in places like Burundi, DRC, and other countries, with the support of Germany and the Peacebuilding Fund, United Nations are supporting initiatives that generate predictable revenue streams for communities and indigenous communities through ecosystem services. Let me now turn to my friend right next to me here, our third panelist, Roaa, Alobeid, a climate activist and peace advocate from Sudan and the co-founder of United Beyond Borders, an organization that bridges geographic divides to build a community of young activists from conflict-affected countries across the MENA region. Roaa, we are so happy to have you join us for this important discussion. You have experience with youth-led efforts to address climate, peace, and security challenges across a very difficult, unfortunately, nowadays, region. Can you speak about the challenges that you face in the region and some opportunities? Thank you.
First, thank you so much for the invitation. It's my pleasure to be here with amazing panelists. So maybe I can start briefly the story of United Beyond Border, because it's a start from a challenge that I face and my co-founder faced. So you know, when a conflict happens in your country, your life in one day, it's changed, and you start new page in your life called a migrant. You're being called displaced, and now suddenly out of nowhere you suddenly discover that everyone, they are blocking their door. No one wants you to come to their country. Everything becomes difficult in one day just because there is a war in your country. And that is what happened to me in 2023. So earlier 2023, I was like, we have normal life. I have my university. We have everything. And I was traveling normally. But suddenly in April 2023, a war started in Sudan. And then even I was outside the country, but then since you are holding a passport of a country that have a conflict, that means that you are maybe even red flag. So in 2024, me and my friend from Syria, Ola, the co-founder of United Beyond Border, both of us got selected for a program. It's called Changemaker for Planet, and there was a summit. We supposed to go, both of us there. And then, even it was in Egypt, global South country, not global North. So for both of us, it was impossible to travel just because both of us coming from conflicted country. For me, I've been told at the embassy that Sudanese are not eligible for the visa just because I'm Sudanese. And for her, even she applied, her visa got rejected. Even she provided all the documents, and then she ended to get the visa to pay $3,000 just for travel for a program. And it was really devastating period for both of us. And then she made it, but I couldn't make it there. And after the program, we both, we were talking together about the experience and how hard it was for both of us. And then I told her, okay, it was hard, but we share the pain, but let's share the solution. And then we were thinking how we can build something together, despite that we are from different continent, different country, but we share the same pain. So we decided to start an initiative called United Beyond Border. From its name is United Beyond Borders, and this is what happened for two of us. We united beyond the border that separate both of us. And then while we were working on starting our organization, we discovered that this is not just a pain that only you can fight it, struggle in Sudan or Syria. It's for anyone who's coming from conflicted country. The same struggle starting from visa, from security, from all the resources. There is lack of knowledge, lack of accessibility. Even in the context of the country itself, when there is insecurity in the country, even organizing a small event is impossible. And this is like, because in 2023, we organized so many stuff in Sudan before the war, and then after that, we couldn't even organize a small workshop because the security issue, and then now after the war started in the country, like every gathering is looks suspicious, and just to get approval, just a small workshop, you have to go through like months of procedure, investigation, submitting paper, just for a small workshop. And this is locally, and internationally, it become impossible to participate in the normal event, in the negotiation. This year, okay, Brazil was easy, accessible for us for the e-visa, but any other country that require going to embassy or something is impossible. So it was so challenging for both of us, and then we discovered in different countries that are facing the same. So we started this initiative to unite those youths because, okay, if we are not in the room, if we are not in the negotiation room, then who will advocate for us? Because people there, they are not knowing that what we are struggling, what we are suffering. They don't know anything about us, and definitely no one will care about you. So if you didn't fight for your own right, no one will give you your right. And that is why we start to mobilize the youth from this country. We started in Palestine, in Lebanon, in Syria, Iraq, Somalia, and then our main focus was the youth in the country itself because they are the ones who are struggling. And even it was super complicated, especially in countries like Yemen. It was very, very impossible for us to reach out to Yemen, but we managed. And then we were advocating for the youth local, internationally, whenever I'm in event or something. We advocate for them, we amplify their voices, but also working locally. And that is the idea, like we need to bridge the gap between those communities who are always left behind to amplify their voices here, but also to make sure that those who are still there in the country itself get the knowledge, get the accessibility, and even after COP now we're going to have also a post-COP event because definitely no one made it to Brazil this year. It was super impossible for most of them, but I make sure that me and those who are there here on ground to go after the event, to share with them what happened and to assure them that even you are not in the room, but your voices were there.
Thank you so much, Roaa, for sharing with us. Indeed, ensuring the voices are heard of the youth and their leadership is important, and we count on you. We need innovation as well, and the innovation comes from the youth. Thank you. Before we close the panel segment, let me go back to this powerful, very diverse panelist, and I would like to ask each one of you one final question. In one sentence, if possible, what is your main message that you would like us to take away from today's discussion? Roaa, can I start with you?
Okay, so actually, I was prepared for a question that how the global north should be advocating for the global. Going so high. Okay, how the global. Yeah, now it's clear, right? Okay, how the global north is advocating, supposed to advocate for the global south, especially youth and activists from conflicted country. And I think that this is the global north, especially they are playing a crucial role in the advocacy and also to support. And it started from the first thing that to make the climate space accessible for those community. And especially like most of the UN agency, they are hosting in global north country. And then when we start in terms of visa, it's impossible for most of those activists. And this is maybe something that now why we see COP is becoming more accessible because of the e-visa system. So everyone who got the badge can easily come and get the visa. And this is my message. I hope in the future that those events that hosted in the global north, maybe they start a system, fair system, that not judging people, excluding them because of nationality, rather it's accessible for everyone, and make sure that those voices are there in the room.
Thank you so much. Well noted. Maryanne, in one sentence, what would you like to, the message you would like to share with us today?
Thank you very much. I would leave behind one recommendation that, because Indigenous women are protectors of territories, and we are not someone to be pitied at or someone to be like a waste dump for even the government system or companies to just come and do whatever they want to do and go. What I'm trying to say is we have to be recognized as custodian of biodiversity and ecosystem, and we are contributors of some of the world's, ecosystem that erase carbon footprints, and then we contribute to the global north so that fairness and the world, continues to live. So for that reason, in climate dialogues like this, I just wanted to leave behind that Indigenous women has to have a place in this kind of dialogues where we not only come here, COP after COP, just scream and, say we are like this, we are like that, we are impacted by climate change, so whatsoever. We wanted to be in the system, to be policymakers, to be in the system that really implement the laws and the regulations that is in the UNFCCC system. Another thing is, we've been doing these climate-based adaptation and mitigation solutions for generations. So my appeal to UN Women, WPHF, and other UN funding mechanisms or government agency who are at the front line supporting us, the affected communities of displacement, why not to invest in Indigenous women and try and see that we have already protected territories for the betterment of humanity and nature. That is the reason why I chose my organization in that, for the name that I took, Humanity and Nature, because I am the protector of territory. And I need your support to support such local initiatives who are at the front line from a bottom level up perspective, doing advocacy, combating climate change, restoring nature, and making things better in even climate peace-building negotiations as well at the ground level for a fair and healthy living, for peaceful and lasting peace and a betterment of humanity and earth. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Nature is hearing you, Maryanne.
Can you hear me? For me, on the basis of the challenges I identified earlier, it would be important for youth participation to be institutionalized so that it doesn't stop on the invitation level, so that youth participation is not tokenistic. It's important for increased funding to youth-led initiatives. It's important to build the capacities of youth. But then as a closing statement, it's important to note that climate vulnerabilities, it affects each group differently, right? It affects women differently, young people differently, Indigenous people differently, displaced persons differently. And what it does is it exacerbates vulnerability. And so the ripple effect, they cascade across identities. And so my closing statement would be for policies to reflect these differing identities, the challenges, how intersectional they are, for the policies to reflect this, but then also for these various target groups to be empowered, to be able to move if they want in dignity, for them to remain in dignity, for these intersectional groups' identities to somehow be empowered throughout the climate spectrum. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. As a woman, myself, as a woman from the South, working on climate, peace, and security in the UN New York, you have my commitment to raise and all of the voices I heard now and the challenges you raised with me, that they will be on the center of the discussions. Thank you so much. Let us now hear from the floor. I'll open it for Three, maybe a statement from the floor. I would love to hear some reflection, some insight. Let me first ask Mateja if you can come and join us here. Mateja from the Ministry of Foreign and European Affairs in Slovenia. Please share with us some of your insights.
Happy to say it is that I come from the country where human rights, and especially rights of women and the youth, the children, has always been one of our priorities in foreign policy. And we are a small country full of nature, so we also know, how to live close to the nature. And unfortunately, I also have a little bit of experience of the conflict because, as you probably know, Slovenia was part of Yugoslavia and it did not end peacefully. So I cannot compare to what you've been going through, but there is a little bit of knowledge there. And I think the way we came into being, it's also that, we do efforts at our national level. We already accepted, passed this year, the third national plan on women, peace and security, in which we recognized that it is essential to integrate climate, environment, water perspective into national action plans as they are tool for translating commitments into our action. But we are also very active at a global stage. I already mentioned human rights in Geneva, and I am very happy to say that we are also very active in climate, peace and security in the Security Council now when we are the non-permanent member. So we had 4 priorities. 2 priorities of them were women, peace and security, and the other one was peace and security. So as you can see, these 2 issues are very important for us. We organized together with like-minded countries within the framework of Security Council many discussions. So we saw the experiences of Afghanistan, Central Africa, Haiti, West Africa, Libya, and just last week, Central African Republic. And what we noticed that in this, in practically in every discussions, the gendered impact of climate change, as well as women leadership and in adaptation, mitigation, and peace building, have been central to the discussions. But of course, we cannot do the work without the partners. And we do liaison with different initiatives, different institutions. And at the forefront, of course, it's also cooperation with Women, Peace and Humanitarian Fund. And I am very happy to report that we have supported the fund in the past, and we will also continue to do so in the future. And together with them, we are going to organize the event during our presidency of the Security Council in December, where I'm sure the women issue and the youth issues will be right there in front. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you. And Mateja, I look forward to working closely with you as you resume the presidency for next year. Thank you. Let me turn now to Farhana. Farhana is a lawyer and advocate. This is her 27th CAP, so big claps to a believer in the CAP who continues to come and motivate us. Farhana, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you first and foremost to the German Pavilion for having me here as an interventionist at this point. I guess 2 or 3 points that I'd like to make, as this is the German Pavilion. Firstly, Germany has played an incredible role in the climate change regime over the years. when, as a young woman starting in 1991, I had jet black hair, and now I don't. And I would like it to rise to the challenges that it must do so now. There's a sense in which climate is not being seen as a winning leadership role, and I hope that very much all of us can reassure and ask and cajole our German friends to maintain that leadership. That includes, for example, things as simple as visas. So the subsidiary body meetings are always in Bonn, and there is a huge problem there that must be addressed. It is damaging Germany's reputation as a leader, as an ally, as a builder. Many of the constituted bodies have meetings in Bonn all around the year, and we must have a system which is fair, equitable, transparent, and kind to those people, and not have to have repeated wait appointments and so forth. So it sounds like a small point, but it is actually a very fundamental point about inclusion and fair governance, and Germany fulfilling the obligations that it has as the host of the Secretariat. I would wish also that Germany would host more COPs. The default position in the rules of procedure is that Germany shall be the host of COPs unless it's agreed otherwise. And actually, the disagreement here could mean that Germany could be a host of the COP, but Germany, again, does not lend itself to that possibility very often. There have actually been 6 COPs where the host country and the presidency, 6, did not coincide. I can list those, but it'll take quite a lot of time. Obviously, the most recent one was Fiji in Bonn, where the presidency was held by Fiji and Germany hosted. Chile was another country that, due to an emergency, had to rearrange, and its presidency was still its presidency, but Spain hosted that. And Germany has hosted, I think, 3 other COPs where it wasn't the presidency after that. And I think that this is important because the presidential nature of the COP process is creating fundamental problems for fairness, for equity, for the phase-out of fossil fuels. And that is because, basically, in the last 10 years especially, it is fossil fuel-dominated countries that have played as COP hosts, including this one. So we need to have a fairer system which involves maybe co-hosting, co-sharing, co-chairing all of these agreements. And I think Germany should be open and supportive of that, rather than saying, oh no, we cannot host these agreements, we cannot host these things. These are legal obligations to do, and we can figure things out that are more creative. My final thanks is to these amazing panelists for bringing the stories and the challenges and the solutions of what we now need to do to make the world a kinder, more hospitable place to live in, even as we experience warmer temperatures than we wanted to experience at this point in time. So I think I salute you. I hope we can make your life easier. We have made incredible progress. It is now 2009. That was the first time that a COP 15, easy to do the maths, first said that the finance had to be provided in a balanced manner between adaptation and mitigation. And we're still nowhere near that goal. And this COP must change that. We must step up. And also, as allies in the global north, I live in the UK, we must de-link funding from the other agenda items here. This has become a bargaining chip, and that is simply not acceptable anymore. We must provide assistance, support, and unconditional support to those on the front lines as they experience a warming and climate devastation, some of which we will all work together to prevent. So I think we are all going to get to 1.5. It may take longer and be more difficult than we thought, but we will persevere as we have done, thanks to the energies of all of these people and the UN Women too.
Thank you. Thank you for Hannah's very strong messages. I think if I cannot dare to summarize, but if I'll try, I'll say each one of us are pieces of the big puzzles, and we each have, in our humble way, ways we can shape the agenda. So thank you for sharing with us. Finally, I'm pleased to introduce Sarah Henriks, Director of Policy Program and Intergovernmental Division at UN Women, to share remarks on the way forward. Sarah, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you so much. I think I have not done 29 COPs, but 27, excuse me. But yet my voice sounds like I've been speaking all day. It really is such an honor to join you today and to close out what has been a very important and meaningful discussion on behalf of UN Women and the Women, Peace and Humanitarian Fund. As you know, that is a visionary funding instrument that UN Women is so proud to be the secretariat of. My very sincere thanks to our co-hosts for the German Federal Foreign Office, as well as the Peacebuilding Support Office, and to these amazing, amazing panelists for your leadership and for all of the insights that were shared today. You know, as we have been marking such an important year, as we mark this year of Security Council Resolution 1325 plus 25, and as we look ahead to the 10th anniversary of the Women, Peace and Humanitarian Fund, as well as of the Youth, Peace and Security Agenda, our message today is very unwavering. It's very clear. The women, youth, and Indigenous leaders are already on the front lines of climate-related insecurity. And they are mobilizing their communities, they are mediating conflicts, they are the ones bringing all of these innovative solutions. They are acting with so much urgency and with so much determination long before the systems are actually in place to resource them. As we close out today's discussion, I think what I want to emphasize is our collective responsibility. It is our collective responsibility as government, as multilateral partners, as civil society, to match their courage, to really match their courage with investment, with protection, as well as with political trust. At UN Women, through our work that we're so honored to be a part of as a secretariat for the Women, Peace and Humanitarian Fund, we actually see every single day what is possible when we do just that, when we step up to support and lift up the courage of women peace builders themselves. And we're really working to ensure that global climate security policies are gender responsive, that they're climate and conflict sensitive, and that they're really, really rooted in rights. We have a new policy insight that we encourage you all to look at that the Women, Peace and Security Agenda already offers. And this is a comprehensive framework for addressing the intersections of gender and of climate, of peace and security together. We really try to be steadfast in our work, to listen and support member states so that member states can integrate climate priorities into their national action plans on women, peace, and security. And I think it's inspiring that today 54 out of the 115 national action plans that exist today actually reference climate. If you were just to look back 2 or 3 years, that was not the case. And we're conducting, I think, very intentionally gender-responsive climate security risk assessments in countries as far-reaching as Central African Republic and Niger and Sri Lanka. UN Women also takes very seriously the work of women peace builders. And here, it's their work as well as the work of environmental defenders that needs to be resourced, that needs attention. In Colombia, a Germany-funded program has empowered nearly 2,500 women through livelihoods and environmental action and protection strategies. That's just one example. And we continue to push for greater and more gender-responsive climate finance. I think we all know the data about ODA-funded activities. Of 160,000 of them just a few years ago, only 56 of those, that amounts to like 0.035%, actually included commitments on gender-responsive climate work. That, of course, is not inevitable. that reflects political choices, it reflects structural choices. And we want to see that changed as well. As the host of the WPHF Secretariat, we are especially proud of what this particular innovative financing instrument continues to deliver for local women's organizations, including those responding to climate insecurity and climate injustice in some of the most fragile settings around the world. You know, the WPHF is about to turn 10 years old, but in these 9+ years, 9.5 years, it supported over 1,700 local women's organizations in over 48 crisis-affected countries. And almost 50% of those organizations are receiving funding from the United Nations for their very first time. And so they're also entering into kind of very important relationships that are catalytic to deeper connections and deeper positioning. We are also celebrating 2 years since the launch of the WPHF funding initiative on women and climate security that got launched at COP28. I was there for that, together with Germany and Slovenia, and now strengthened by France and the UK. And in just 2 years, this initiative has already doubled in size and is now funding 31 women's organizations in Fiji, Vanuatu, Nigeria, and Colombia, with new projects in Bangladesh and Myanmar to come. So this really is what sustained impact looks like. It's locally rooted. It's focusing on women-led solutions. It's growing stronger over time as those resources actually meet the level of women's ambition around the world. And we know that the scale of the challenge is big. Women-led organizations still, as we know, receive less than 1% of ODA going to global peace and climate funding. And so closing this gap is not only a question of principle, it's not just a moral imperative, but it's one of very smart climate and security policy. We're so grateful that COP30 gives us an opportunity to kind of orient onto implementation, to orient around commitment to delivery. So I want to thank everybody here who's making inclusive women-led climate and security action a reality. Peace is possible, and it is deeply interconnected with the fight against climate injustice. And it's so exciting to hear from Slovenia and others that you're taking this role on the Security Council and giving such primacy to the Women, Peace, and Security agenda. So on behalf of UN Women and the Women, Peace, and Humanitarian Fund, we look forward to continuing our partnership, standing shoulder to shoulder with civil society, backing their leadership, strengthening their ability to shape more peaceful, just, and climate-secure futures. Let's take that collective commitment forward from COP30 to really invest boldly, to do so with intention, to close the financing gaps that are there, and to ensure inclusive approaches are embedded in every climate, peace, and security effort. With this, I thank you.
Much, Sarah, and thank you to my powerful, inspiring panelists. Thank you for those that join us online, and thank you to Germany for hosting and putting together this incredible session. We look forward to working with each one of you, and then we will take a family picture. Okay, thank you so much.
Global Muchidão, realizing just transitions. welcome to the German Climate Pavilion at COP30 in Billey.